This is Hannibal back here from thehannibaltv.com. Just finished replaying an interview with Slick, the very first black WWE manager. The Rock is currently making a biopic about Ric Flair's life. It'll be interesting to see if now that AEW has released him, if he'll start showing back up in WWE where his daughter and son in law work, because obviously The Rock's on the board of directors of WWE, and having Flair involved in the mix if they're making a movie about him is going to only bring more attention to the movie. AEW did practically nothing with Ric Flair. As I mentioned earlier, the original deal, Tony Khan had said it was a multi-year contract, and Flair had said it was a 2-year contract. Hasn't even been a year. Did they even use him 5 times? I don't know. Apparently, they had nothing creatively for him. AEW, name me one megastar that they've created. WCW had Goldberg. AEW now has been around for years, and we've only seen a ratings decline. The attendance, although they do have some outliers here and there of good crowds overall, they get like 1,500 to 2,500 usually in 20,000 seat arenas. This is why they're moving to that 1,000-ish seat arena in Arlington, Texas for the residency. It's just funny to me because you have literally one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, if not the greatest, and you don't have anything for him creatively. It's just ridiculous. But and keep in mind, guys, I understand they have Dynamite, but the Rampage and Collision ratings are, first of all, Dynamite doesn't even beat NXT most weeks now. NXT usually beats Dynamite quite often now. Why would you put Flair at least on Rampage or Collision that nobody watches? Like, at least give those shows a boost. Anyways, I bet you anything if and when he does start appearing in WWE, which I'm sure he will, he'll be used much better. This run of Ric Flair's at AEW, as a Ric Flair fan, it was disrespectful to Ric Flair fans how they used him. It was pathetic. Survivor Series is going to be at a 15,000 seat arena, the new one in Inglewood, California. WWE's latest signee, Stephanie Valker, who literally was just on AEW's Forbidden Door pay-per-view, and Mercedes Moné went to CMLL to do an interview, or to do a confrontation with her. Again, this was on a Friday night. They didn't use Mercedes Moné on Rampage. God forbid you try and get Rampage a rating. You send her to CMLL. She appears on the CMLL show, does this confrontation that, let's be honest, did anybody before any of this in Canada or the US or most other places even know who Stephanie Valker was? All that angle did was end up getting her noticed by WWE, and now she's actually apparently wrestling for WWE this weekend in Mexico. By the way, it appears that other than foreign tours like in Mexico and Europe and places, WWE is pretty much stopping doing house shows in Canada and the US. There's none planned for the fall. There's only 2 this summer. The old days of the hard schedules are long gone. AJ Styles, a guy that I once beat 2 times in one night, back when he was IWGP New Japan champion, defeated Marufuji at Pro Wrestling Noah's Destination event earlier today. I did do a couple training seminars with Marufuji over the years. Seems like a nice guy. And apparently it was announced that NXT's Josh Briggs and Travis or Tavian Heights are going to be the next WWE wrestlers to appear For Noah, I guess since NXT is hardly doing any events outside of the TV tapings these days, they're going to be sending NXT wrestlers to companies like Noah and TNA. And by the way, apparently, I heard Dave Meltzer talk about this, and this is true. Like WWE, we're talking about AEW's poor promotions. You know how they had Sting's final retirement tour and like never even mentioned that it was going to be his final matches in these towns when he appeared in his last matches in most of the towns other than Greensboro. WWE is going to do this with Cena. Like the last match in Toronto, it's the last time to see Cena here. Last time seeing Cena there. That's going to give their attendance a good boost. AEW's Eddie Kingston, who has a bunch of matches on this channel, if you search Eddie Kingston to Hannibal TV, had his knee surgery. It was delayed because his broken leg had to heal before he got the knee surgery. This was an injury he had while wrestling for New Japan. Again, AEW prioritizing other companies. It's Tony Khan's money. He can do whatever he wants. But their advances have been soft lately. They hardly use Lana. No surprise, she's been released. She said after her release that WWE is her heart and soul. Miro, who, how many times have they used him since he's been signed for years now? Apparently, he's still under contract, but according to Dave Meltzer, he's back in Bulgaria. So, for whatever reason, they're not releasing him. Bryan Danielson, he is going to retire from a full-time schedule at the end of this year, but he says he's going to wrestle here and there until he dies. The top angle going to SummerSlam is kind of weak. Cody against this Solo Sikoa guy. Not really many people believe that Solo has a chance in winning. They also have Drew McIntyre against CM Punk. Other than that, there's not much. Damian Priest is going out with Lana. Oh, that's interesting. I notice in wrestling, like you looked at it with Billy Jack Haynes and Austin, and Chris Adams all went out with Lady Blossom. Magnum TA married Tully Blanchard's wife. In wrestling, like a lot of people like to marry each other's wives, but that's funny. Damian Priest going out with Lana. I'll take your word for it, Ivan. You're the Puerto Rican guy. James agrees with me. Their treatment of Ric Flair. First of all, how can you say you have nothing creative for Ric freaking Flair? Honestly, they didn't even use him the week where the pizza incident happened, when he was literally the most talked about wrestler in the world. They didn't even have him do a skit and have someone come out and beat him up. I don't know any book. Like, if you want to call Tony, I have no problems with him personally, but how could anyone say you have nothing for Ric Flair? Yes, I'm positive, Johnny, you're going to see Ric Flair back in WWE. Yes, Chris, looks like the AEW guys are being used better in WWE overall. Chris, I don't know where Cena is going to have his last match. It's going to be at the end of 2025, in December 2025. Yeah, Trump, no WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump, no soul getting shot in the ear. So I'm happy he's all right. Like him or hate him, he is the only president that's in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I really don't like Joe. Here's my, not that I can vote, but Joe Biden is not going to do anything towards alien disclosure or UFO disclosure. Donald Trump, I think, would be the president more on the side of disclosure. So as a UFO person, taking nothing else into consideration, that's why I hope Trump wins. Good evening, Humble 85. Piper's good. I was hanging out with her earlier today. She's doing great. Ric Flair was promoting Woo Energy, which apparently is not very readily available. It's definitely not in any stores I've seen in Canada, and I've heard it's not in a lot of places in the U.S. But terrible booking of Flair. I didn't hear that, but maybe with this new Inglewood Arena, maybe they'll get a better deal there. Who knows? Why does AEW let the guys they're paying big money to work for other companies? I don't know. I really don't know. Humble thinks AEW is getting dropped by TNT and TBS. So they did Ric Flair and CJ Perry a favor. I'm sure Ric Flair, since they're not doing anything, I'm sure the money was good for him, whatever he was getting. But I mean, he'll be used way better in WWE, where his daughter and son-in-law are in there. I just don't see him not being used with The Rock on the board of directors, doing a movie about him. CJ Perry, she wasn't really doing anything before AEW, but if Ivan's right that she's dating Damian Priest, maybe he can help her get her foot back in the door. But it's not like she's a hot commodity right now. What did she do in AEW other than at some point she got some type of infection from a sliver in the back or something, which who knows. All I remember is she had to spend a couple weeks in the hospital. That was the biggest news from her AEW thing, due to a blood infection of some sort. I don't know what Keith Lee's up to. Ivan, yeah, I reported that earlier. Dory Funk is getting back in the ring in Japan. There is a thing of Dory Funk on this channel of him presenting a seminar at the Cauliflower Alley Club a few years ago. Yeah, I think Cena will break Flair's record. Another reason why they'll probably have, you know what? It's just going to be funny because Flair is going to be back at WWE, and I guarantee he's going to be involved in some good stuff. I can't tell you anything good that Flair did in AEW. They wasted him. It's just sad. So that's their loss. Like you have all these no names on Rampage, which is one of the reasons why nobody watches. Like, why not at least, if you're not going to do anything with Ric Flair, put him on Rampage? He's a bigger name than anyone they use on Rampage. There is an interview with Manny Fernandez on here. The problem is he lies a lot. If his lips are moving, a lot of it's a lie. In the small interview I did with him, he lied. He tried to tell me he was getting revenge on Bruiser Brody by that angle he did with Invader 3, which is known to have been a work. Trade by Sin, yeah, they completely wasted Flair. They did. Sad. Have a great night.